Hello and welcome to Pass Shoot Score. I'm Anna Connolly, joined as always by Johnny Lazarus and Shukri Wrights. Deep breaths, you guys. I haven't talked to you guys in so long. Shukri, how are you?
Damn, you put me on the spot already.
I'm
I've come
putting you on the
across.
spot. Well, you gotta, especially because it's a podcast, you gotta say like,
Of
"Hi,
course, of course. So,
hello,
warning,
Anna."
disclaimer, audience, those are gonna be listening and watching. I sound like complete ass right now. If ass can even make a sound, so
It definitely does. I don't know if you heard of a fart before.
that's called ass music. It does. so,
I'm pretty sure there's a South Park on there.
Damn it, Johnny. I'm trying not to laugh, but no, like I sound crappy, so please pardon me for my lack of audio quality in that regard. But outside of that, we're in the Stanley Cup Finals, man, and I've seen nothing but an absolute train wreck, and I'm like, okay, I thought this was supposed to be entertaining. It's been anything but entertaining, but that's just me complaining for no reason. But I'm good otherwise. How are you doing, Johnny?
We will get to the train wreck, but I want to say it is almost 11 o'clock at night, so we might. Who knows? It's a late night filming, but it's 11 o'clock at night because somebody out of the three of us just landed in Florida, which I thought, guys, I'll be honest, I thought Florida played in Miami, and then somebody was like, well, it's in Fort Lauderdale, and I was like, what?
It's not even in Fort Lauderdale, it's in Sunrise.
Yeah. Okay, so well, that shows my geography for anywhere outside of the state of California. I'm just that person. But Johnny, putting you on the spot, tell us everything. What are you doing? You just got back from Vegas. Yeah. Just start and we'll just go from there.
Well, first off, I want to apologize to everyone too for Shugri sounding like shit. No, I mean, I'm hosting the Stanley Cup live show with the NHL on their YouTube channel, presented by New Amsterdam Vodka. I have to say that one, and it's honestly like it's been a dream come true. I mean, this has been. I'm still like, in a sense, in a place where I feel like I don't belong right now. Like, it's kind of weird, like just being around all these people. No, but like, it's everyone I've grown up watching on TV, like, hanging out with Emily Kaplan, hanging out with Jackie Redmond, Elliot Friedman, like all these names of people that like, Brian Boyle I've talked to a couple times. Henrik Lundqvist I was sitting with. Like, I mean, game
especially
2.
as a Rangers fan, that's like really cool. Oh my gosh.
Like amazing.
I'll tell you guys, like game 2, I didn't really watch a lot of the game because I was just like in awe of who I was sitting with. And Jazz actually invited me into the TNT suite. So I was literally sitting with like
Jazzy,
Henrik, Tocchet, Wayne, Biz. Like that experience was insane.
Did you get to meet Wayne?
I did meet Wayne. I met Wayne at the Winter Classic. He didn't remember me. I don't know why, but no, that was cool. But honestly, talking to Biz was really cool. And Liam, obviously, I've known Liam a little bit, just the Long Island connection. But just so I'll tell a quick story, and then we can go into the series and stuff. But during the second period, I was literally like standing on the railing watching the game, and Henrik walks up next to me and starts watching next to me, and I'm like I gotta say something, like I can't but he had headphones in. He kind of like keeps to himself during the game. And I think just like truly watches it and like, he turns around and like watches the replays and see what the goalie does. Cause they're going on live like right after. So there's a TV timeout. This is like 10 minutes of me just standing next to him and like not knowing what to say or say anything. And I didn't say anything. And then I went to TV timeout. I just turned to him and I was like, I just have to introduce myself. Like, my name is Johnny. I'm with the NHL. I grew up a huge Rangers fan. Like, I literally just love you. And I would love to get a picture of you if possible. And he's like, dude, yeah, like no problem. And he like, we did like a dap hug, like when you like dap someone, hug them.
Exactly.
It was like a cool little dap hug. And then Jazz was like, I told Jazz, I was like, I got to ask Henrik for a picture. Just like make it quick. Like, let's make it happen. And he was obviously like so about it. So we got that picture and it was awesome. And then I just like went back to watching the game, but just being around those guys and like seeing how they work, like being behind the scenes and seeing how they operate, pretty awesome. So kudos to all those people. And if I missed any names, like whatever, but it's been an absolute blast. And just how nice everyone is the coolest part.
If you'd have told like 12-year-old you, we'll say 12-year-old you, that you'd be doing this and you'd be meeting these guys, what would he say?
I mean, I think the first thing he'd say was like, you may as well just quit hockey now and get into broadcasting because you're wasting your time playing. No, but, just full disclosure, like, I woke up as a kid, like every day as a kid, I think my parents got NHL Network on our TV when I was in like 6th grade. And since that happened, I would wake up like an hour before I had to leave for school and I'd eat my breakfast watching NHL Network. So like, I grew up watching the classic series. Like that was my favorite thing. They'd show like 2002, like the series recaps and stuff. Like Dave Reed was hosting it, I think. And like those are my favorite things. But to be in the mix and I think the coolest thing is people like knowing who I am. Like that's been the weirdest thing,
That's so cool.
It's been I don't want to just make this like a whole like weird brag, but
we can. No, don't worry.
No, I can relate. Trust me. No, I get it.
It's been pretty awesome. I am 600 in the hole in blackjack, so that's been pretty tough. But
my next question was, how was Vegas? Did you escape Vegas unscathed?
Have you gambled like at all?
Well, yeah. I just said I was 600 in the hole.
Good lord.
This is actually my first time in Vegas, so I was trying to really do it like the right way. I obviously we were working though, so like I only went out like late one night, and I'll tell a funny story. So Saturday night we went to XS and Kygo was performing. A friend of mine, JJ Fruity, and like Book It with Trent, those guys, they had a free table there, so they invited me and like Brian Rubin. I don't know if you know him, Anna. He went to Syracuse also. And Jazz and
guys.
Yeah, like all the TNT,
I saw Jazz. His Instagram story. He was at the Win or the Encore, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, he's having a blast. And it was his birthday, I think, right?
It was his birthday last night. Yeah.
Yes.
So we leave at like 4 a.m. and I'm starving and I ordered Taco Bell to my room. I got back to my room. I fell asleep as soon as I sat down. Woke up at 6 a.m. Taco Bell was outside my door at 6 a.m. I had a quesadilla. I went back to bed and woke up at 11. It's disgusting.
Good for you.
Literally Taco Bell quesadilla at 6 a.m. It's so gross.
Was this your first like time in Vegas? Or?
Yeah. First ever time. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. That's legendary, man. Just so you know, as like a dude, most dudes do not have that first time in Vegas because guys are expensive. Like girls, it's cheap to go to Vegas, but guys, you gotta like bring out the checkbook. So holy shit. We're just gonna live vicariously through you.
That's exactly what's happened already. Oh yeah.
I am lucky that my first time here is on someone else's dime.
Every show we're just gonna start with like, what's Laz up to? Tell us about your life.
Happy to tell. I'm happy to tell.
Oh my gosh, I could listen all day. But nonetheless, Stanley Cup Finals. Since it's been a while since we've chatted, we'll do a little recap. Obviously, Vegas, #1 seed against Florida, #8 seed. Now, game one, we're going to touch upon game one and game two. So I'm going to leave kind of open-ended here so you guys can just talk. I think that's good for this episode, at least. Vegas takes game one, 5-2. Zach Whitecloud had the game winner. Obviously, our group text was going crazy over Shea Theodore and that nasty,
that was gross.
Nasty goal.
That's why I'm sick, by the way.
And surprisingly, you guys, he had 1 goal, 1 assist, 3 shots on goal, 21 minutes of ice time about on that night. But that was his first goal of the playoffs this year, which is nuts to think about. Going into game two, Paul Maurice had the quote of the year. I wish NHL Awards had a quote of the year because it would go to him for everyone just fucking breathe. But nonetheless, no breathing was happening last night in game two. What was it that Vegas did? And you guys kind of said like this cup almost sucks because it's just like the games are just total blowouts. So what is it that Vegas is doing? Shukri, we'll start with you. That is just dominating Florida.
I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. I think the worst thing that could have happened is that break for Florida. I am a very big believer in hockey that that momentum, again, pardon me because my voice sounds like ass, not ass music, but it sounds like ass. But the worst thing that happened to the Florida Panthers was that break, because we were raving in the previous episodes about how dominant Florida has been. This is a team that's been the team of that embodied a death by 1,000 cuts and so forth. But so far, this series has been like, hey, did you forget your legs against Carolina? Because we haven't seen those legs that same legs that were jumping against Carolina in the past 2 games in the Cup final. And I just think that what stood out to me is that the goaltending is what's really been the number one thing that stood out to me in my mind. Ladies and gentlemen, what got Florida to this point is the goaltending of Sergei Bobrovsky. That's the reason why Florida's in this position. But in the first 2 games, I have to admit I am shocked by the regression of Sergei Bobrovsky, the guy who could very well be the Conn Smythe winner if Florida won the Cup, to mid-season Sergei Bobrovsky, where he was ineffective. He was benched at one point for Spencer Knight and then Alex Leon towards the end of the year. That has got me thinking. I gotta think that the confidence in Sergei Bobrovsky has definitely been shaken. But I definitely want to say the legs have been a massive noticeable difference in Florida. And then number 2, I think also more importantly, the play in depth between Sergei Bobrovsky and Adin Hill is, you can't even compare the two. Adin Hill has been on another level. Adin Hill, for God's sakes, made a save that was eerily similar to Braden Holtby in the 2018 Stanley Cup Final. And when he made that save, I gotta admit, I have flashbacks. I was thinking about, oh shit, this is Braden Holtby-esque, because this was that save that catapulted the Washington Capitals to go on to win the Stanley Cup and obviously that series. So I'm thinking, is this the same thing happening for the Vegas Golden Knights? So in conclusion, to me, I just feel that break has really ruined Florida's rhythm in the way that they're skating out there, especially against this grinded out Vegas Golden Knights team that has had no sort of quit whatsoever. And then on top of that, the goaltending has been very problematic for the Florida Panthers so far in this series.
Yeah, I think the break, just to jump in there, definitely hurt Florida, but I thought Florida was pretty good in game 1. Obviously, they got a little undisciplined toward the end with the amount of penalties they took. I think they took 7 in game 1, but that's a 2-2 game going into the third period. I think it's a 3-2 game with like 8 minutes left. So like Florida, they were right there in it, I think, pretty much till the end. And, to Shukri's point, that Adin Hill save, if Nick Cousins buries that, Florida goes up 2-1. And then, on the flip side, it's Shea Theodore who comes down and scores for the Golden Knights. So they go up 2-1. Florida has to come back and tie the game, make it 2-2. But I thought Florida was actually pretty good in game 1. Game 2, it was all Vegas. Like, you can just tell, again, to Shukri's point, that the Panthers just had no legs. Vegas was completely dominating them. They had so much more offensive zone pressure. And I think the biggest difference, too, aside from goaltending, has been the power play. Vegas has 2 power play goals in both games. Florida hasn't scored in the power play yet in this series. They're 0 for 7, I think, in this series overall, and Vegas is 4 for 11. So, that's been a huge difference maker as well. And it just looks like when you're watching the game that right now Florida's just trying to be a little bit over physical. Like they're trying to fucking lay somebody out every time they throw a hit. And it's like almost the emotion is a little bit too much, right? Because like when you play in these big moments, you just want to make an impact on the game any way you can. And the ice becomes smaller and it's so much harder to make a play, and time and space is really taken away from all the players. So you look at guys like Matthew Tkachuk, Sam Bennett really trying to stir it up and just be more physical because they don't have as much room to make plays that they typically were doing in the previous 3 rounds. And I think the physicality is getting to Florida a little bit more than it is to Vegas, whereas Vegas just has, so much speed and strength top to bottom. Not saying Florida doesn't, but it's evident that Vegas just has so much more depth right now. And I think that's been their biggest thing in the playoffs so far. Like their 4th line's been awesome too. And, I think Brett Howden had a 2-goal game the other night. Like Brett Howden, pitching in and scoring goals is huge. So, Adin Hill's been fucking awesome too. Like I tweeted the other night, like, wait guys, maybe Adin Hill is actually sick. But yeah, I think, Vegas also feeds out that home crowd. Like, I'll say it too, firsthand. Like I always thought the Vegas intro, like skit or whatever they do is kind of cringe on TV, but being in there in person, like it is actually so fucking cool. I had chills like the first game, but I think Florida is going to come out in game 3, and I think they're going to feed off their home energy as well. And, Sergei Bobrovsky should be back in goal. I don't think they're going to go to Alex Lyon, but I think Florida still makes this a series. I'm not counting it out whatsoever, but yeah, Vegas had a completely dominant performance in game 2. And sorry if I rambled on there.
No, you're fine. You go ahead, Shukri.
Which is why, I actually agree with Johnny. Like, I'm not writing off this series saying, the series is over. Like, no, because we've seen time and time again that it is possible to come back from 0-2 down in the Stanley Cup Finals and win it. But I will say this though, it hasn't happened since the 2011 Bruins that a team was coming from 0-2 down, losing the first 2 games on the road, no less, and to go on to win the Stanley Cup in 7 games. So Florida's got their they got their work cut out, and they're going back home for Game 3. And I think them getting an early start, starting on time, and scoring that first goal is going to be huge in terms of not only getting the crowd into it, but also finding their confidence again. Because I feel like their confidence was a bit shot in Game 2 in the way that they were trying to overcompensate by being physical. I had no problem with the open ice hit from Matthew Tkachuk against Jack. I had no issue with it. It was a clean hockey hit. But I just felt like there were moments at times where I thought, like, you guys, you're doing a little too much, and you're not doing enough to generate like chances against Aiden Hill. So I definitely do think that, like, the series is not over just yet, but I do think that Florida, they got their work cut out for them starting in Game 3 just to at least start on time.
So last night's game, we're filming this on a Tuesday, so we're talking about Game 2. Last night's game, 44 hits versus 24 hits, Florida to Vegas. So, the over physicality is there, and you show it on the stat line in the box score. So let's talk. I want to get back to Sergei Bobrovsky. Wow, I'm like it's 11 o'clock at night,
You're
so
good.
we're just going to be fumbling. It's fine. But I want to get back to that because there was a tweet today. So first of all, Game 1, Florida hit the post 3 times. So, and plus, 5-2, one of it was an empty netter. So you're watching the game and you're like, stat line says it's like, a blowout, but it was closer than you thought. And I think the takeaway from Game 1 was exactly what you said, Johnny, special teams. It was just, it wasn't there for Florida. So going into Game 2, we were expecting, okay, like maybe they'll clean it up. And especially in the Eastern Conference Finals, we saw a lack of power play production for Florida in Game 1. Then by Game 2, they kind of got their shit together. Now, Bob, I'll just say Bob because it's 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Say his name right now. So do we think it's him? Because of course, I think he'll get the nod probably in the next game. I think that's facts because Alex Lyon got an is it Leon or Lion? Because I've always said Lion. Yeah. Lion. So Lion still allowed 3 goals in the third. So nonetheless, but do you think it's him? Because I saw something on Twitter today and it was a still and it was kind of like a board battle in the corner. And there were 3 Vegas players. I don't know. It was just a still of, I think like the Sportsnet broadcast. And I have no idea if it was on the forecheck or what, but it was 3 Vegas players in the corner in their offensive zone. And all 5 Florida players were on the ice in the offensive zone, battling out on the board. And then Vegas had 2 guys up high, 1 guy coming in on the slot to take the shot. So is it Sergei? Is it Bob? Is it lack of play? Or is it just this lack of legs and Florida just totally shitting the bed defensively?
I mean, do you want me to go first, Shiri? Or
yeah,
you want to?
Go ahead.
I blame Florida completely. It's definitely not Bob. When you talk about, I mean, Game 1, that one, I think the goals that Vegas scored in Game 1, like that Mark Stone goal, Matthew Tkachuk turns the puck over right in the middle. Mark Stone knocks out of midair, wide open. That's like the dagger. White Cloud has a good shot from the point that beats Bob going against the grain. There's some bodies in front that ended up being the game-winning goal. But you look at Game 2, and Jonathan Marchessault, his first goal of the game, power play, great screen in front. You can't really blame the goalie if he can't see it, right? Like the defense would have to clear out the guy in front. Martinez's goal, I'm pretty sure that was like an odd man rush, right? He was wide open in the slot, and he sniped Bobrovsky. Nicholas Waugh's goal. That was just he went like posting in, like low blocker. That was a great shot. Bob probably could have had that one. The Brett Howard goal.
It's also Alec Martinez. He has Stanley Cup experience. He's used
to big moments.
He's a big game player.
And then the Brett Howden goal is a 3-on-2 where Howden comes in untouched. Like you can't really blame Bob for those 4 goals. I think Paul Maurice actually said it, like his quote after the game, why he pulled Bob was because he wanted to give him extra rest going into Game 3. Like there's no reason for Bob to be in the net when you're down 4-0. And Lyon's been more than capable, and he was fine when he had to come in. That Marchessault goal on Lyon was, like you said, I don't know, that he was left wide open. Nobody was even close to him. And the other goal was a backdoor tap-in, I believe, as well. Amadio's 7th goal of the game, or the team's 7th goal, was a backdoor tap-in. So, the goalies are left out to dry. You can't really blame either one. And Bob's the guy who's got them here. So I think it's a no-brainer to go back to Bob.
Honestly, like I agree to an extent, but I will also say this in the spirit of being harsh. The mental errors have killed the Panthers so far in these first two games. Like from what I noticed was that there were maybe 3 or 4 goals. I felt like, man, they leave a little too much space on the ice in front of Bobrovsky in terms of defensive breakdowns or whatever the case may have been in that regard. But I just feel that if I went back and looked at what the Panthers were able to do in the Carolina series, the Eastern Conference Finals, versus what I've seen the first 2 games, I feel as if that they did a better job defending in front of the net, and they didn't have these lapses where they were leaving time and space in front of Bobrovsky the way that you've seen it, especially in games 2. Like, and I just feel that, and especially in the Stanley Cup Finals, like these are the mistakes that kills teams where. Well, these breakdowns in which that you got guys like Holden, for example, and you got guys like Alec Martinez we were just talking about, who is known to shine on this stage, and not just only the Stanley Cup Finals, but in conference final play. Remember, he had the series winning goal in 2014 for the Kings in the Western Conference Finals Game 7 against Chicago. So like I just think that these critical mistakes that Florida are making right now are contributing to why they're down 0-2. And if they're not careful and they're not clean it up, they're going to find themselves down 0-3 because Bruce Cassidy is a different coach. And I saw it for years here in Boston. If there's one thing that is the biggest for him now versus the first year that Vegas got to the Cup final, defensive structure. And he's got a better core of players that at his disposal than in the first year that Vegas made the run to the Cup final. And I think Bruce Cassidy is using it to his advantage. I just want to talk about the play of Alex Pietrangelo. How important has he been, especially to the start of this season? Obviously, throughout this run so far, but especially in the first 2 games, I just thought that him and Alec Martinez have been 2 of the most important defensemen for the Golden Knights so far in this series.
Now, moving on, just because we got to keep things flowing, Matthew Tkachuk. One of you guys mentioned it. We got to talk about it because it was all the talk on the good old Twitter today. So I did some math because I was mathing today. So through 2 games, he has 36 penalty minutes. His total ice time is 34 minutes and 34 seconds. Okay. And he has 60 minutes of penalty minutes in the entire postseason so far this season. So 34 of them have come in game 1 and game 2. Obviously, three misconducts. I loved what Twitter had to say. Matthew Tkachuk hat trick was 2 misconducts and a goal, which I think is it's going to be the new thing for sure. But that hit on Eichel, it was what everyone was talking about. What do you guys think? Do you say it's clean? Do you say it's dirty? Should he have gotten 10 minutes for it?
Well, I think he got 10 minutes for something else. I
don't think.
Because that was what, like, it was weird because I went back in the box score because I was like, okay, like, gathering notes for today. And it looked like it was congruent. And I was really confused because then I went back and I was trying to watch highlights and there was just like a weird whistle after it or something. Yeah. So I was just so confused. And then everything on Twitter has been just talking about this hit. So nonetheless, the hit was a sexy hit. And it was, the hyped up media hype of Tkachuk versus Eichel. So what do you guys think of it? And what do you think of Matthew Tkachuk's play? More importantly, is he bringing down the Florida Panthers? Is he kind of going back on everything that we've said about him in this postseason being a big time player?
No, definitely not. I mean, game 1, I don't think he had much of an impact. I think he had like 3 shots on goal, but like didn't really create many chances and whatnot. Game 2, I think he was just once that game gets 4-0, you're just trying to stir shit up, right? Like you're probably not coming back. Yeah. You're just trying to do something to piss the other team off. And that hit on Eichel, I actually thought he kind of like held up, if anything. Like he looked like he was going in to try to lay him out. And I think once he saw, like if you watch in slow-mo, once he saw Eichel kind of lose an edge, you see him kind of tuck his shoulder back. Like it was out and then it comes back. So I think he was trying to brace himself and like brace Eichel's impact on him. If you like kind of look at it that way, that's just how I saw it. I don't know if everyone else felt the same, but I mean, even Eichel said it. I think Cassie said it too. Like, that's a clean hockey hit. And kudos to fucking Jack Eichel, right? Because he is that dude. Like, he is that dude.
Yeah, he comes back and scores a goal. Like, are you kidding? Like, right on.
He had, by the way, a Paul Correa of 03 Stanley Cup Finals.
He didn't score. He had an assist. He didn't score, but he had an assist. Yeah, he hasn't scored in like the last like 8 games, I think. But still, kudos to him for fucking. He had no business being out there. Like if I'm the trainer, I'm kind of like, hey, we're up 4-0 here. Like let's make sure you're good. Like I'd play it safe in that sense, you know. But he's a hockey player and he wanted to go back out there, and you know, kudos to him for getting that assist. And he's done so many little things. Like, you know, there was one board battle in game 2, him versus Tkachuk on the blue line, and Eichel was the guy that came away with it. You know, even in, I think it was game 6 against the Stars, like that Barbashev goal that opened up the scoring, like Eichel wins a battle there, you know, like he's done all those little things. And, you know, Matthew Tkachuk is just doing what Tkachuk does, right? Like he's just going to stir shit up, and that's his game. And Eichel was able to respond. So I think it was great. And there's definitely going to be more of that because Tkachuk's probably going to try to get the home crowd to feed off of his play, I think, in game 3. So I'd imagine there'd be some more battles between Tkachuk and whoever's going to – I put Pietrangelo, to your point, I think, Shuker, you said Pietrangelo, he's probably going to fucking go after him.
Oh, no question. He's going to continue his presence in this series. And I do think that that hit from Matthew Tkachuk on Jack Eichel was a clean hit. And I mentioned it just a few minutes ago that part of the reason why I do think it was because this is the Stanley Cup Finals, and these are the kind of hits in which that it wasn't dirty. It wasn't like ill intent. He was trying to make a hockey play, and then to top it all off, I was like, the more I think about it, the more I say to myself, you know what? Kudos to Matthew Tkachuk for the hit, but what I'm going to ask him to do is to not score his goals in garbage time. Because when he scored game 2, it was well after the fact the game was over. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So
he didn't even, like, no one even knew in the building that it went in.
Exactly.
Yeah, like it just was ridiculous. It like happened. It was so anticlimactic. It was like, oh, okay.
It was like, oh yeah, great. Yeah.
That was funny because I was like right behind Biz when that happened. He was like, he didn't even sell you. I was like, Biz, they're down 6-1.
Yeah, like you're not gonna say, like, at least he has the wherewithal to not do that. He's like, got it.
He's like, yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty much everything I had that I wanted to talk to you guys. I guess like Jack Eichel, if you guys, what do you guys think about Jack Eichel? I mean, is this much? I saw something, another Syracuse kid that I went to school with popped up on my Twitter page a couple days ago. He covers hockey, and he was on some podcasts, one of them, and he was talking about how well deserved this is for Jack Eichel. And it's, I mean, I was in upstate New York. I don't wish upstate New York on anybody. I don't ever have to go back there. Yeah. Like, little California kid. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to school in New York. And I was like, what the fuck is this place? Like, there's more camouflage than backwoods Alabama. But nonetheless, like, you can quote me on that, you guys. I'm like, guys, no, I showed up at Syracuse and I was like, so is there like a Whole Foods here? And people are like, what the fuck is Whole Foods? I was like, oh, okay. And Wegmans had like one aisle at the time of like healthy food. And I was like, do we just eat pizza every day? Like what goes on here? Anyways, so nonetheless, what do you guys think about Jack Eichel? Is this well-deserved? Are we overly happy that he is finding success right now? Shukri, you go first.
I think personally, I'm thrilled. He got out of hockey jail in Buffalo, and like he was. I'm sure he was thrilled when he first got traded to Vegas, and obviously he had to go through like with the surgery that he had and so forth. But to see him shine on like the biggest stage in the sport, I think it's just incredible because he spent so many years in Buffalo in hopes of being the quote-unquote hockey savior for a once proud Buffalo Sabres franchise that hadn't made the postseason since 2011. So for me, I think that this is phenomenal. This is just great for Jack Eichel to have the opportunity to play in the Stanley Cup Finals, for him to perform and have been a big contributing factor for the Vegas Golden Knights so far up until this point. So for me, I look at it and I say, you've made it. Showtime. Let's go.
Well, I think too, like I'm pretty sure he was advised to like not get the surgery that he got on his neck, right? Like I think that was the first ever time it's been done on a hockey player. So, you know, to his credit also, like kind of betting on himself and like trusting his own medical research and whatnot, which is a huge reason why he left Buffalo, because I think they weren't going to let him get that surgery. So, for a player to stick to his own guns and come out on top of it, and not only come out on top and succeed, but doing it the way that Eichel's doing it. He might not be scoring a ton of goals. I know he has 6 in the playoffs, but he hasn't had many lately. But to be winning those board battles and playing physical and playing true playoff hockey, and maybe leading that next generation of the true skill players that have to truly buy in and play that playoff hockey type of game. Like, Ovechkin got criticized for years for not buying in, and that's why he couldn't win a cup. And then you see in 2018, he's blocking shots, he's throwing the body, he's doing everything he can to win. And, that's similar to what Eichel's doing right now. And, I'm sure McDavid will be fired up next year, and he'll, I don't think anyone wants McDavid blocking shots, but, I'm sure he'll do it if he has to, right? Like, I think that's the thing too. Like Eichel and McDavid, if you guys remember as far back to 2015, like that draft year, it wasn't like McDavid was obviously a little bit ahead of Eichel, but they were pretty much like paired together. Whereas like I've been asking a lot of questions about this year's draft, Bedard and Fantilli, because Bedard is that Canadian prospect who's out of this world, and Fantilli is the Hobey Baker winner, just like Jack Eichel was in the 2015 draft. But this draft, it's Bedard who's definitely in a class of his own, where it's like Bedard and just the rest of the class. But that year, it was really Eichel McDavid. Like they were paired together. So for him to be in McDavid's shadow for all these years and to, be in this opportunity before McDavid was able to get there, I think that's so big for him too, because I'm sure he's fucking sick and tired of hearing Connor McDavid when he was, in that draft class and, just as successful, even though he wasn't on as good of a team. And if he can get a cup first, I think that'd be awesome for him. And just great for the game too. Another American-born forward winning the Stanley Cup, superstar. Can't be mad at that.
Exactly.
Can't be mad at all.
And speaking of Connor Bedard, like, how about that chirp on TNT?
That was awesome.
Like, bodied the hell out of Biz. Like, oh my god,
yeah,
that's got to be the chirp of the year. I'm sorry, like the way he's basically like a bunch of really good NHLers, and then there's Biz, and it's just like, it's like, damn.
It is kind of funny though. Like, he does have a point. Like, Biz is like, I don't know. I grew up, like, I lived in Arizona when Biz was like playing hockey there. I sat next to him at like a charity once. It was like Biz on one side and George LaRock on another, who's like my all-time favorite hockey player. I love
George LaRock.
Yeah, but like Biz was like, if you'd asked me and he like wasn't on TNT, I'm like, oh yeah, he was like a minor league player. Came up like a couple times, like got the salary, but nonetheless, he's a great guy. But it's funny that he's sitting next to like Wayne Gretzky of all people. I'm like, did we mean to pair them?
Pretty sick.
Okay, so we didn't get to do an episode before everything started, so we're kind of cheating here. But Vegas is up 2-0. What are your predictions for the rest of the series?
Shukri, you want to go first?
Sure. I'm going to say that that Vegas wins the series in 5. And
I like that.
Florida will win one of either game 3 or 4 at home. I'm probably going to go with game 4, as that will happen. But I would also say that Vegas, if I had to pick a Conn Smythe winner now, I predicted Vegas will win the series in 5. For me, it's got to be William Karlsson. As easy of a pick as it would be for Jonathan Marchessault to be the guy, but I got to go with William Karlsson for this one.
Mm-hmm. I happen to agree with the Vegas in 5. Like, it's easy to say now. I do think if Vegas wins game 3, then they'll win game 4. I think if Florida goes down 3-0, game 4 is just going to be an absolute shit show of them trying to be, too over physical like they've been in the first 2 games. And I just think it's going to get ugly in game 4. I do got to give one shout out. I don't know if you guys saw, I had 2 flights today. I had a Vegas to Dallas and then a connecting flight from Dallas to Fort Lauderdale. And on both of those planes, I sat next to Wendell Duclair, Anthony Duclair's dad. Yeah, so
that's so cool.
We spent the whole day together, and he's my boy now. We actually like exchanged numbers, but we were talking, and he says Panthers in 7. Panthers in 7 was my pick prior to the series because I want the Panthers to win, but like I thought Vegas would win. My heart is just with Florida. But he's confident, so he got me feeling confident. And I mean, Florida has to win game 3. That's the bottom line. And I think anyone who's ever watched the sport could say that. That's not me being a fucking genius. Like that's pretty obvious. But I think if Florida does win Game 3 and Bob gets hot again, I mean, I'm also rooting for this series to go as long as possible because it's just been. So
I think
long,
everybody is.
Yeah,
I mean, always. Yeah.
But yeah, I think Vegas. If I really had to had a gun to my head, I'd say Vegas in 5.
Yeah. Well, logistically, and I think it's funny because everybody has been comparing this Florida team to the 2012 LA Kings.
But they won the first 2 games in the road.
They won the first 2 games. Yeah. It was overtime, but they won the first 2 games, and then they won Game 3. They went out and they won Game 3 4-0, and then Jersey came back
4-0. Get the fuck out of here with that nil bullshit.
It's European. And then Game 4, Game 5, Jersey won, or Game 4, Game 5, Jersey won, and then Game 6, LA won it at home. So I think it's interesting to compare because everybody's making that comparison. And it's just like we're at the point where the comparison is out the door. Like we cannot make it anymore.
It's gone.
Nonetheless, the most pressing way to end this podcast, I don't know if that word's right. It is now 11:26. So
everyone on a sugary, so
yeah, everyone. Sugar's sake, Johnny, what time do you have to be up in the morning tomorrow, and what is in store for you?
Tomorrow is technically an off day, but I'm actually
never an off day.
Yeah, I think I'm doing a Bleacher Report skate in the morning with Duclair actually. I think that's what's planned right now.
That was the first thing I ever saw from you when I Googled your name, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. Yeah, because when Eric Weinberger told me hey, come do this playoff podcast, I was like, oh, who are these guys? And I Googled your name, and I was like, wow, this guy actually knows how to play hockey. This is crazy.
Back in the day.
I think it was with you and Jason Robertson, so it was cool.
Yeah. That was a good one. He was actually awesome. So I think I'm going to their practice in the morning, and then I think I'm hopping on Sirius XM radio in the afternoon, but I'm not required to do anything for the NHL tomorrow. It's more so just on my own time. So I'll hang by the pool for sure. Tomorrow, that's going to be, honestly, anyone covering this series, being in Florida and Vegas is a dream.
Yeah, I'd say so.
It's been awesome.
What hotel did you stay at in Vegas again?
It's so.
You want to tell people? Is it so bougie? It's
Waldorf
so bougie.
Astoria.
It's so bougie.
But it was awesome.
The NHL travels well, let me tell you. It is nice. But that's a little bit of a cab drive to get to the Encore, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah. For the Saturday night out, it was a cab. But as far as getting to the rink, it's actually pretty cool. There's Vegas has an underground mall that connects all the hotels. So I got to stay indoors when I walked to the rink, thank God, because I'm a sweater and I would have died. But yeah, that Vegas is definitely unlike any city I've ever been to, and not just because of the gambling and stuff, just the way it's structured. It's pretty crazy. It's cool.
No, it's funky. That's where in Southern California, our volleyball tournaments will be in Vegas. It's Saturday, let's play volleyball because there's just so many people in California.
Yeah.
So I've been to Vegas so much, and the thing is I'm jealous, but also the fact that you have to go from 110 degrees to the dry heat to 98 degrees.
Yeah, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
I'm really not looking. I have 3 T-shirts in my bag ready to go.
Yeah, I'd rather have the underground tunnel in Florida.
I think what we can wrap up on too. What's really cool being here. This is my first Stanley Cup final. I've never been to a Stanley Cup final game. And just everything around it, kudos to Steve Mayer, who's the chief content officer, and he does so much incredible stuff just around the presentation of the final. There was a Marshmello concert for Game 1 outside the arena, Flo Rida's performing outside Game 3. It's a spectacle, which is really cool, and I think that's been the coolest part for me. It was people showing up to the game 4 hours before puck drop to party, hang out. Do any of these people have jobs?
Nobody has a job anymore.
Yeah.
Come on.
No
Okay.
job?
Any final thoughts, guys? Did we miss anything? It's now 11:30. So say
I'm good.
Your middle of the night thoughts are people have to listen at this point.
I gotta go scroll through Fort Lauderdale Hinge, try to find my wife.
Smart move. I am still on the hunt
Not a bad
myself.
place. Not a bad place to go.
Vegas was tough to find love, but maybe Fort Lauderdale.
Oh my god.
Listen. As long as you're not running into, well, maybe you like MILFs. I don't know. I mean, but I mean, it is 11:30 at night, literally. So, but
shoot your shot.
exactly.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wow, that was so hockey, man. Wow.
But it's. But random late night thought, just a random late night thought.
Transitioning from MILFs.
That three. Well, listen. I mean, I'm a single man myself as well, so I'm just like, look, I'm chilling. But that 3-team trade earlier, like between the Flyers, the Blue,
who cares?
That was weird. That was weird. It like popped up because I have all the Kings like notifications on, and I just was like, I don't even know what to think of this right now. Like,
yeah.
And then I saw like one tweet. It was like one meme, and it was the SpongeBob meme with like Squidward looking out the window at like SpongeBob and Patrick, and it was like Brendan Lemieux right now. I was like, yo. And also knowing that I think his family has like a sick house in Manhattan Beach, I'm like, that like really hits home. So okay, we're wrapping things up. We're delirious. It's tired. Yep. Johnny Ladd is big time now. So hopefully you still remain friends with us. That's all I can
obviously say. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. For Johnny Lazarus, Jukri Wright, I'm Anna Connolly. Thanks for another edition of Pass, Shoot, and Score.